NIPM Coimbatore chapter. And on behalf of all of us, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Raghunath Ramaswamy, a recruiter's friend, philosopher, and guide, Fail-Safe Hiring, Chennai. Thank you, sir, for being with us and gracing us with your presence and for accepting to speak on employer branding through LinkedIn. A brief introduction to our speaker today. Mr. Raghunath has a master's in mathematics from IIT Delhi. His career has roots in software development, customer support, sales and marketing. And he was quite a rolling stone for the first 10 years with stints punctuated in the United States, Far East and the Middle East. He joined HCL Technologies as a part of their resource management group in 1995, and a happy accident in his life, which helped him develop a deep and abiding interest in recruitment and talent acquisition. The role of HCL Technologies was quite demanding, and stakeholders across the globe had to be serviced. And his role emphasized that the needs of customers were sacrosanct. It was in this role that he felt a compelling need to articulate a transparent framework that would help recruiters execute professional responsibilities with ease. And it was this express goal that Raghu set up Spectrum Consulting in 2004. He spent the next 8 years building world-class applicant tracking system and resume parsers. Spectrum Consulting was a startup which much before the era of startups in India. The initiative was bootstrapped, fueled by the conviction of ideas. It had the unmistakable sweat equity of its founder. Raghu architected the Pranav suite of products with a lot of thought and care. Recruitment consulting has been another important line of business since Spectrum Consulting's inception itself. And Raghu has also been training and coaching recruiters. Social media and LinkedIn fascinates Raghu, an ardent admirer of LinkedIn. He evangelizes LinkedIn. And the most important part, he has authored a book, Fail-Safe Hiring, as an effort to share his experiences accrued over the last 25 years as a practitioner. And this book, I would say, is a must read for every recruiter. Welcome, sir, once again. I also take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Sridhar, Chairman, Mr. Tilak, Secretary and Executive Committee members of NIPM Coimbatore chapter. I also welcome Dr. Narayanan, Director, DJ Academy for Managerial Excellence, faculty and students, DJ Academy, and the attendees from academia and industry. So welcome all once again. Now I'll yield the floor to Mr. Raghu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Savitri, for your kind words. It's a pleasure to be able to present employer branding through LinkedIn to DJ Academy of Managerial Excellence, as well as the NIPM members in Coimbatore. Thanks to Dr. Narayanan for enabling this opportunity, as well as Mr. Sridhar at NIPM. So I get started here. Just to give some clarity to people about the companies that I represent. Spectrum Consulting happens to be the arm that does the lateral placements, and Fail-Safe Hiring is a book, but I've also set up a company in the same name that basically kind of does process consulting, value-added training in the area of recruitment. So this is just to set the context and some clarity on why there are two different companies. And I present this particular session on behalf of Fail-Safe Hiring, and that's the reason why I've been introduced as a recruiter's friend, philosopher, and guide, and that's the way I wish to be seen, because people should feel free to come, and I hopefully am able to enable conversations on talent acquisition. I'm here hopefully able to democratize the entire process of recruitment, and so that's my wish. So let's get started. And so in today's session, just a second, hold on, please. Yeah. So the agenda today is going to be fivefold. First, we're going to see what is the central concept of LinkedIn and social. because that's the key. It's very important to understand the principles of social media. The principles of social media are fairly uniform across different social media platforms, but we are going to specifically examine the LinkedIn aspect in detail. Second thing is that how does one become visible for one's needs? This principle is actually, kind of can be extrapolated for not only an individual, but also for an organization. Thirdly, it will be how to construct an effective LinkedIn profile. And most importantly, employer branding through LinkedIn can be followed by questions. So before I get on to the, what is the understanding of employer branding? What is your personal understanding of employer branding? Can some of the students and the participants, Dr. Savitri, you can collect or curate it and then possibly reflect upon it. Can some of the participants throw light on what is their perception of what employer branding is? Because all of you are going to go to a job tomorrow, and it's very important to understand what an employer brand is.
Participants have access to audio also. If you wish, you can unmute.
Sir, I'm not able to hear, sir. The volume is pretty low. Sri Raman?
Yes, sir. No, I was just telling if participants want to talk, they have access for audio. They can unmute and talk.
All right. It will be a lot of fun if people, are spontaneous and then throw up answers. Otherwise, I will go like a monologue. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever is your wish.
Have access. Students, you have access. Please just unmute and ask, or just respond to sir.
Or they can respond through the chat section also.
So I'm going to go ahead. I think what I would do is I'd go through the session and then take the questions. Okay. So that way, let's actually go ahead. So here is employer branding is the process of managing and influencing your reputation, right? As an employer, amongst job seekers, employees, and the key stakeholders. It encompasses everything you do to position your organization as an employer of choice. And your employer brand is your organization's reputation as an employer. So normally, in the sense that in a college, when you actually have the campus placements coming in, a lot of people decide saying that you want to take up an opportunity with, let us say, a company X. And when somebody asks that person, why am I taking the opportunity with company X? The student normally responds saying that it is my dream company. So that's a loose, reflection. It's a loosely used term. A dream company is actually a loosely used word for an employer brand, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to park employer branding on one side, and we will revisit employer branding after we take a look at LinkedIn. Okay. So here I go to LinkedIn and mark these words very, make note of it. Enhance your social media presence and get found for your needs. This is like a mantra, right? If you're able to understand this and crack this, enhance your social media presence and get found for your needs. There are two words that you need to pay attention to. Social media presence and then getting found for your needs. This is actually a big paradigm shift in the way you look at a problem, right? All of you are in a great, all of you, you're all perplexed. How do I search for a job, right? How do I search for things? With social in place, the concept of search has been permanently replaced by getting found for your needs, right? Which means that there is a great news. that you can enjoy the popularity of the most popular person on this planet, right? If you are deciding to put your heart and soul into the whole process. So social media basically gives you all the power to be able to showcase your talent or showcase yourself and be able to be as popular as anybody in the world. That's an important truth that you will have to understand and you will have to appreciate and will have to leverage for your own benefit. The second most important thing is what you have to understand is social media presence. You have to pay attention to the fact is what is social media presence. That's a very important word. And as a student, as a job seeker, as a person who wants to enrich his career, as a potential human resource professional, as a potential marketeer, for everybody, social media presence counts. And it's extremely important that social media, you have to understand what social media presence is and how do we're going to examine how are we going to enhance our social media presence and therefore get found for your needs. The more you are able to enhance your social media presence, the greater are the chances of you to get found for your needs. Okay, so we have to find out if you're leveraging LinkedIn adequately. Okay, so the number of LinkedIn members is 740 million people, right? So you have to ask yourself, okay, this is at any point of time, the number is keeping on increasing because more and more people are actually joining the LinkedIn bandwagon. What you also have to understand that in India, at this point, as we speak, I think the number of people who have adopted LinkedIn is about 70 million people, okay? But you have to understand, I open up a LinkedIn account, does it automatically ensure me connecting with all the 740 million people, right? So you also have to ask yourself one more question. Do you really want to connect with 740 million people? So there are two things to this. One is, does opening an account connect you with all the 740 million people? Do you really want to connect with all the 740 million members? So as we go along, here is what I'm going to plant a few thoughts in your mind, okay? And important phrases that you may want to reflect. How do you detect the signal from the noise? Let us say you're connected to all the 740 million people. If you have a connection with all the 740 million people, then what happens is that you will get feeds from all the 740 million people, right? Do you want some of the questions that I will keep on? I'm going to repeat some of the things over and over again. You may get bored, but these are realities of life, okay? I've taken several years to actually understand some of these concepts, okay? It's not as easy as it sounds, okay? Now, the thing is this, you have to ask yourself, do you really want to connect with all the 740 million people? That means, do you want to connect with the, let us say, one of the phrases that I will be using consistently is that, do you want to, as a student of human resources, or as a student of, you're a marketeer, or let us say, you're a HR professional, or let us say, you're a company owner, selling, let us say, electronic goods or whatever it is. Do you want to connect with, let us say, the farmers of the world, or the astronauts of the world, or the painters of the world, right? They are in no way connected to your business. So it's very important to ask, who are the people that you are wanting to collaborate with? Who are the people that it makes a difference if you collaborate with? So this is a question that you have to actually ask yourself, right? So here I'm going ahead. So the rewards of using LinkedIn have been, so let me just shift this for a moment, have been widely experienced, okay? A LinkedIn account can be opened in a few minutes. It's easy to add connections, but experiences differ. Why are some people able to use LinkedIn more effectively than others? You've got to ask yourself this question, right? Because it's almost like there are, 24 hours in a day. Why does somebody become the president of the United States and why does somebody, is also an after rank, right? So it's how you use that 24 hours. That's a priority that you have to accord to the timing. Similarly, with LinkedIn, the experiences differ. Some are able to use it more effectively than others. So here is what you have to understand. 6 degrees of, in this planet, anybody is separated from anybody else by 6 degrees of separation. You may be, let us say, for example, Tom Cruise is a very popular person. You may be separated from Tom Cruise only by 6 degrees of separation, right? So, and you also have to understand that everybody in this planet is in search of somebody else. So we're all collaborating with one another. Like for example, if I'm selling my book, the target audience is possibly the students, right? Students, I'm connected to you, right? There is a particular need. I'm connected to you. I've written it for a target audience like you. You guys are on lookout for a job. If you read that book, you will possibly be looking at another particular organization to be able to be employed, right? So it makes you employable. So you have a target audience. So we are all interconnected in this world. One person is dependent on, everybody is dependent on everybody else. We are all interdependent. That is something that you have to keep in mind, right? So an individual LinkedIn user, always we set out to find partners and allies, right? But what you have to understand is that some people are more visible than others. They get searched more often and there is a greater traffic to their profile. So, but here, let me throw light on one of the things which I have missed while talking. Everybody is separated by everybody else by 6 degrees of separation. However, LinkedIn allows you to connect with one another up to 3 levels of separation. So if you go into LinkedIn, you will see there is a level 1 connection, there is a level 2 connection, there is a level 3 connection. So this is very important for you to understand. At this point of time, the level 1 connection plus level 2 connection plus level 3 connection represents the size of your network. See, you might have, let us say 100. We'll come to the size of the network at a later point of time, but you have to remember this. If you have 100 connections on L1, you may have 10,000 connections on L2. You may have about 1 million L3 connections. L1 plus L2 plus L3 represents the size of the network. We'll understand as we go along how our LinkedIn experience is actually determined by the size of the network. It's very important. Keep this in mind. Size of the network is a very important concept that you will have to realize to be able to leverage the, the best out of LinkedIn, right? So what do you have to, there's a final thing on the green light which is there. In reality, people get found on LinkedIn, right? If you use it the right way, you will get found for your needs. It's very important, okay? So let me say, for example, so there is also something called, there's something called digital, there's something called physical, okay? My reaching out to Dr. Narayanan is also, in a way, I had met Mr. Lakshmi Narasimhan in 2007 through LinkedIn. Okay, we were all early, actually through a friend of mine on LinkedIn, and I've been in touch with him. So when I wrote the book, I reached out to Mr. Lakshmi Narasimhan, and he kind of introduced to Dr. Narayanan. You understand? So the thing is that what you have to understand is that it's very important. I'm actually giving you the wrong example for getting found on LinkedIn. We will actually you kind of address this as we go along. So I think this is, we just park this example. I probably come to this a bit later, okay? So how do you get found on LinkedIn, right? Can just opening an account and adding connections automatically guarantee and visibility and therefore ensure getting found on LinkedIn? So you're at the center of the universe along with millions of others, just separated by 6 degrees, 3 levels of visibility provided by LinkedIn, a lot of ongoing conversations of the planet on social media. Search is also not a one-way street. And then you are being found while you are finding. And somebody was more visible than others, right? And they got special attention. So, and were found several times more than others. So why were some profiles more visible than others? And social media presence is one of the things that we're going to visit. Okay. So here we come, and we'll now see what are the building blocks, manifestation, impact, and realization of the building blocks. There are 7 building blocks of social media. One is identity, which is actually, there is identity is one of the things which you have, which is actually your social media profile, your Facebook profile, your Twitter profile, or your LinkedIn profile are all your identity. For an individual, there is his identity is a LinkedIn individual profile. For an organization, it is a LinkedIn company page, right? For a university or a college, it is the university page, right? So that is the identity of the respective people and the respective institutions. So on one end, you have identity. On the other end, you have connections, right? So what you have to understand is that it's very important that you basically share, participate in groups and conversations. Your liking or commenting is a conversation, okay? When you engage with your audience, that is when your social media presence enhances, and therefore your reputation enhances, and that paves the way for relationships, which manifests itself in connections. In real time, you have to notice that we tend to add connections arbitrarily, and therefore there is an onus of converting that connection to relationships. It's something that you have to park, and we will possibly try to address it, but you will have to reflect upon that particular concept. So what you have to understand is that your profile has to be qualitative and complete. Your LinkedIn profile will actually address how a LinkedIn profile should be. And then the quality and quantity of your network matters, and the quality and frequency of your engagement matters. There are only 3 important things as far as social media is concerned. Easily said, but it's very difficult. Identity is your LinkedIn profile, right? The second is the network. What is the kind of network that you have, right? And what is the quality of your engagement? See, what you have to understand is that the building your profile is probably a one-time task, or once in a while you can make small modifications on it. Your quantity and quality of your network, as long as you wish to be on LinkedIn, or as long as you wish to be in professional life and you want to use LinkedIn, you have to be able to keep on adding your quality and quantity of your network. And it is very important that you add value to that network. You engage that network, right? So basically, it's very important. Social is about caring. If you're able to add value, they will see merit in you. Otherwise, they will not see any merit in you. The engagement is what is the soul of that particular. So let us say the profile and the network or the body of social media or the LinkedIn profile. The engagement is what will determine you. Your visibility will go up. That's the very important. Engagement means we'll go into engagement when we go to employer branding through LinkedIn, which is the last slide. But we'll go that into deep. But you need to understand your audience. You need to be able to engage them. And what you have to understand, just to give you an example that you will be able to relate to very easily, I think the message of the brand is amplified by when a consumer basically consumes your experience, okay? Let us say the student of DJ Academy basically consumes the experience of DJ Academy and he advocates DJ Academy. That is when the message of the brand, the consumer of the brand advocate, that consumer advocacy is very important for a brand. So to give it in a much more easier example for you to say, let us say there are a lot of people who may be Rajini fans or who may be Vijay fans, right? Rajinikanth or Vijay is only as good as their consumers advocate, right? They're all there because their consumers advocate their style of acting or their mannerisms or whatever it is. So you have to understand that the quality and frequency of your engagement in terms of addressing the quantity and quality, in terms of engaging your network is very important. Once the consumer of that particular experience basically advocates you, then the message of your brand gets amplified. It's something very important that you have to keep in mind. Okay. So how do you construct an effective LinkedIn profile? First, so we have three important components: identity, engagement, and identity, network, and engagement. All of this has to be in sync, right? So when you are coming into LinkedIn, it is very important for you to articulate why you are there on LinkedIn. Okay. It's very important. So what you have to understand, I can go through the slides, but before that, let me tell you, explain to you. See, the thing is this, there is an essential particular science and grammar to the way a LinkedIn profile is constructed. It's very important that you articulate why you're there on LinkedIn, because that will actually determine your fortunes on LinkedIn. That means whether you're successful on LinkedIn or whether you're not successful on LinkedIn will be determined by the way in which you construct a profile. So it will also determine who are the people that you're going to collaborate with, right? So this is basically will help you, again, going back to the usage of the word, detecting the signal from the noise, right? So it will help you to detect the signal from the noise. So that's very important for you to remember that. So this is the essential grammar. So what is the, so first of all, you need a profile picture. So let's take the important components of LinkedIn. One is there's a photograph, then there is a tagline, then there is a summary, then there's a placeholder to showcase your experience, education, projects, language, and so on and so forth, right? Skills and so on and so forth. But the most important aspect of your LinkedIn profile is the photograph and your tagline. The photograph and tagline have to appear in very prominent spots all over the LinkedIn. Okay. So it's very important that you invest in a professional photo. See, we are very judgmental about the way we see a photograph and come to a conclusion. So it's very important that you invest in a professional photograph. Everybody, LinkedIn, see, for example, LinkedIn is very seriously used by a lot of decision makers to come to conclusion. So let us say, for example, there was the Project Management Institute had decided on a particular speaker in Bangalore from a particular company. And then they went ahead to his LinkedIn profile. They saw it was not okay. Then they decided to scrap him as the, as a speaker. So you have to understand that the LinkedIn profile is very important, and your photo has to be a professional photo. You can't be seen with a cat or a dog or with any of the pets or your son or daughter or your father, or let us say with Narayana Murthy or the President of India. It is your photo, right? Why are you giving, the prominence to President of India? It doesn't need to get the prominence. You are important. It is your profile. It is your, therefore, please invest in a professional photo. And the photo should be warm, friendly, and inviting. So you need to be able to be smiling, in a sense that, so there's a grammar to making a photo properly. That means there has to be a smile. There has to be, your eyes have to reflect your energy. It's very important. It has to be, so the person sees the photo, he should actually be able to come and visit the profile. It has to be a head and shoulder shot, not the whole photo, right? It should be a professional you and not your personal you. So it's very important. Please remember this, very carefully, and invest. It probably take you 1,000 rupees or something like that. If you get a passport portrait size photograph, the passport portrait size photograph will be extremely useful for you to make an impact, right? So do not take selfies, okay? Selfies are the last thing that you want to actually do. Everybody is in love with themselves. I'm okay with it, but that's not for the LinkedIn, okay? The reason I'm actually emphasizing this again and again and again is people do not see the merit of it, but you will make a big impact with your photograph. So make sure that's your identity and make sure that you have a great photograph. So these are examples of good photographs, okay? And there are examples of can improve picture and bad profile pictures. So then there is an element of a professional headline, okay, which we call as a tagline as well. On the profile page, the professional headline appears just below the name. So it's very important that it is, there are many ways in which you can do this. The there are some text. I'm actually taking you through some textbook examples here, but remember that the professional element of headline, which is your tagline, can be used very effectively to be able to brand yourself. It can be creative, it can be memorable, it can be brief. What is important for you to understand is that the professional, whenever you do a search, let us say, for example, you say Raghunath Ramaswamy, you will see my photograph, you will see the tagline below it, which says, "To hell with the bots, I'm ready for the war," right? So I have actually, what I have done is I have practiced what I am preaching. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, it is an ideal LinkedIn profile. And I have actually, but I've taken several years for me to arrive at that particular tagline. Repeatedly, I have worked on it for about 6 years or 7 years before I came to that tagline, okay? So it's a way that you want to market yourself. So if you see, why I am repeating this is basically not to, praise myself or whatever it is, but to set an example so that you can, it's a good example for you to follow, right? But you have to really invest yourself. The photograph and the tagline are very important, and it appears in several parts within the groups, within your inbox, externally. So when you do a search, all these things, what happens is that when they see a good photograph and when they see an impressive tagline, they will click on your photo, on your profile and come to your profile. You have to understand that. So you want to increase your traffic to your profile. You understand? That's very important. Then the profile has to give a key consideration of, has to give a very good idea about what we do and who we are, and increase the probability of being found through search. So there's several theories about how the professional element of headline can be. I'll take you through that. But so it can also, it can be about what you do. That means, like, for example, Satya Nadella doesn't need any branding. So he can say it is he's founder and CEO of, or he's CEO at Microsoft, right? But what you have to understand is that the designation is a very poor way to use a tagline, because there is a placeholder for the designation in the experience column, right? So you have to understand that at best, you don't want to use the experience as a tagline. The second most very popular form is a descriptive keywords. So descriptive keywords are great ways to actually, what is it called? They will increase the probability of being found. Okay. So let me, I think there is a very important concept that I want to touch here, and possibly that will actually be touched upon when I reach the summary section. We will have to discuss about the keywords, how the keywords impact the traffic to your profile, right? So let's see, possibly I just park this until I reach the summary section and then talk about the keywords. But descriptive keywords are a good way to actually show, put as a tagline, right? Somebody says SEO analyst, SEO expert. So he wants to be found for his SEO capabilities. So he's actually, somebody is a career coach, somebody is a professional freelance writer, a writer who wants to be found for his needs can put a keyword like that. Then there are somebody who can actually have a description of the general offering, hiring of returning Indians for senior management in India, known to professionals as AK. So this is one way in which you can brand yourself, where you're actually giving. So these are all ways in which you can brand yourself. There are ways in which you can actually do a direct marketing, or you can push or promote your product. So these are multiple ways on which you can actually put a tagline. But it's very important that, very important criteria, which I would think in addition to this is actually being able to, do something special, right? Use a creative, memorable, and brief. Let's, for example, let me give you an example. If you're a salesman, you can actually say, I do not close a sale, I open a relationship, is one example of a keyword, right? It's something creative, right? Let us say, for example, you believe in excellence. You can put a tagline as, I autographed my work with excellence, right? So these are some of the ways in which you can actually intelligently and creatively showcase. So let's come to the summary section. There are 5 essential tips that we want to give. But what you have to also important, what you also have to understand is that I told you about the keywords. So the thing is that like search engine optimization, when you say, when you type a particular keyword, then you have results actually pouring in, right? So what happens is that whichever site has done their search engine optimization really well, they appear on the top of the search results. Let us say that you are a HR student and you want to, you're searching for a job. And in your network, there is a recruiter who is looking out for you, right? He does not know you. He's in Chennai. You're connected about 500 or 600 people. He does not know you personally. And he is using a keyword that is there in your profile. But you appear on the 5th page or the 6th page. So what happens if you're appearing on the 5th or 6th page? This is an era of attention span deficit. The person will see the first page, second page, third page, and after that, he might lose interest and he might miss your profile itself. He may not even call you. So it's very important that you are found on the top of the search results, right? If you want to be found on the top of the search results, then what you have to do is that you have to make sure that you use, see, keywords are the reasons, keywords represent your needs, right? So you need to be able to embed as many keywords as possible in different ways for which you want to get found, right? I'll give you an example. Okay, somebody wants to be found for a customer relationship manager. But in industry, you will have to understand that people use the word customer relationship manager as a client relationship manager also. So you might want to put both the words client relationship manager and customer relationship manager in the profile in a meaningful way. So when a person actually does customer relationship manager or client relationship manager, you are found in the search results. So this is very important, right? So let me get into the summary. So first you have a photograph. Second, you have a tagline. When people find that to be very attractive, they come into your profile. The next most important thing for them is the summary. When your summary is written very well, then it is very, very, that it actually impacts them, right? That means they will actually get interested in your profile. So it's very important that you write a summary properly, okay? So first section is that never leave a summary blank, right? A lot of people leaves the summary section blank, right? Summary, LinkedIn actually provides you 2000 characters to write about yourself. Make sure that you use all the 2000 characters to actually articulate about yourself, okay? So use a lot of keywords to make sure that you get found for your needs, okay? So this is an important thing that you want to keep in mind. Make it interesting, okay? You might want to make the narrative, in a sense that share your accomplishments, so that make it very stylish, so that it can attract collaborators on all fronts. So that's very important. And articulate the competencies in the areas you like to collaborate with your prospective collaborators. So that's very important. Like I told you, it's very important. Why are you there in LinkedIn? That's very important, because you don't want to deal with the painters of the world or the astronauts of the world or the farmers of the world. You want to be dealing with, let us say, if you're a HR professional, you want to deal with the HR business decision makers, right? So that's something that you have to keep in mind. And very important, contact information can be there in the summary. It can also be there in the contact information in LinkedIn. Now, many of the job seekers leave the contact information blank. I don't know why they do so. LinkedIn gives very beautiful ways in which to, first of all, give a website of their organization. In fact, if you're a DJAME student, you should be driving traffic to DJAME's Academy of Managerial Excellence, right? If you have a personal blog, there are actually provisions for 3 websites in your LinkedIn profile. You also have a provision to include your contact number, your address, your Twitter handle, your internet messaging, and so on and so forth. So make sure that all of it is filled up, because you will a lot of people, even now, there is a student who was trying to reach out to me. He's asking me, he's connected to me on first level on LinkedIn. He was asking me for the contact info. If you go to the LinkedIn profile, if you click on the contact info, all the contact information is there. If you do not fill the contact information, nobody will call you. And let us say, for example, he wants to call you and somebody has sent a mail. You see that mail after 2 days and respond to him by that position. That it's a very competitive world. The position could have been filled up. You would have lost it, right? So it's very important that you fill up the contact information. See, I filled up my contact information. Nobody really bothers me, okay? In a sense, somebody calls me up. That's the reason why I've filled up my number. If I am there on LinkedIn, and if somebody is, it's very important that I take his call, right? I should also respond to him, what is possible and what is not possible. You're not going to get really, what is it called, disturbed or anything like that. It's very important for you, for your existence, okay? So now I come to the, on the network, okay? We talked about the size of the network. Now, the thing is that the size of your network, I'm going to, make that interpretation left to right, top to bottom. So just stay focused on the first block on the left, which says the size of your network is level 1 plus level 2 plus level 3. So second block says, how does that affect your LinkedIn experience? Third block, let us say the size of your network. I might have about 2,000 connections, but my network size may be 140 million, okay? That is the level 1 connection plus level 2 connection plus level 3 connection is 140 million. So what is the total number of LinkedIn members are 740 million. Well, how does this impact my experience on LinkedIn? This will mean that 740 minus 140 million, there is 600 million members will not be a part of the network. This means that those 600 million people will not have access to my profile, and I will not have access to 600 million people. Let us say, for example, you are all going to search for a job. You have prepared a list of 50 target companies, right? Let us say that you have connected with only about 25 of them. The remaining 25 of them, if they are not a part of your network, they will not have access to your profile. Similarly, you will not be able to see any of the job postings made by the other 25 people. So LinkedIn gives you a way to basically think proactively. So why do you want to be on LinkedIn, right? And then who will I connect with? What should be the quality and quantity of my network? I can determine. I can therefore be. So it's very important it gives a fantastic opportunity for you to think and take the necessary action, right? Both of the things it actually gives you, right? So you will not only have access to the 600 million people. So one is that the 600 million people will not have access to your profile. You will not have access to 600 million people. So again, the question that I ask is that, do you want to connect with the carpenters, farmers, the astronauts of the world? And therefore, it is very important that you strategize to arrive at a relevant network for your needs. So be very clear why you want to be in LinkedIn. Who are the people that I want to contact? This is very important. You all have got one more year to go. Let us say, for example, you're in the first year. In 1 year, you should be able to actually get found for your needs. I don't think an institution itself is really required to place you. If you are able to use the power of LinkedIn, you can get one of the loveliest jobs, the loveliest internship, all by yourself. Okay, so it's a flat world. Okay, the possibilities of collaborating are phenomenal. You can actually get an internship in New Zealand, or you can get a New Zealand. Let us say, if I'm exaggerating, maybe you can even work with the penguins in Antarctica if you wish so. That's the power of LinkedIn. Okay, so so if you're a smart searcher, many of you may be asking, maybe it's coming to your mind. If you're waxing eloquently, if I'm waxing eloquently about getting found for your needs, why do I have to, connect with people? You have to understand this. The basic network, you have to set it up, right? That choice is with you. Who are the people that you're going to collaborate with? When you start engaging with them, that is when you will get found for your needs. So there is an initial groundwork that you have to do before you get found for your needs. So when people come and search your profile, they connect with you, your groups, and your company. They're not connecting with you alone. They're connecting with your groups, your company. They research you, your experience, your groups, and your company. And they expect, it's very important, they expect you to participate, right? You just cannot be, in the sense that a person who is there on social media, who keeps observing, is called a lurker, right? They're not expecting you to be a lurker. They're expecting you to participate in meaningful conversations. And they want to get into collaborative buying process. And they want the same thing from your company as well, as a logical extension, because when you are participating as an individual, that is fine. But if you're a part of an organization, then they expect that to be extended to their organization as well. So what would you do if you found the right context on a social networking platform? You'd find leverage professional networks. You will expand your personal network. You will target decision makers, right? It's a smart thing to do. You target decision makers. You focus on real people. There are a lot of people with fake accounts and all that, right? But it's very important that you focus on real people. You gather intelligence. When you read a resume or when you read a LinkedIn profile, there are 100 beautiful, lovely, intelligent inputs for you, right? To understand about so many things. So you gather intelligence. Again, you will target decision makers. Then you will engage them, right? If you don't engage your audience, what are you? You're not worthy of anything if you're not engaging your audience. You will have, again, meaningful conversations, and you will actually get into a collaborative buying process. So this is how LinkedIn has helped, right? This is a dated slide, but I think, people research, people in companies increase branding and marketing presence, reconnect with business associates, potential job opportunities, face-to-face networking effectiveness, build new relationships and potential customers, generate identification of business opportunities, and building new networking relationships with individuals who may influence. Percentage must have changed, okay, but all this definitely LinkedIn helps, right? And so enhance your social media presence and get found for your needs. So you have to ask yourself these important questions. Does my LinkedIn profile articulate why I'm present in LinkedIn? Is my LinkedIn profile complete in all aspects? You got to ask yourself this question. It's very simple. You just have to sit down and see which of the placeholders you have filled, which you have not filled. Does my LinkedIn profile have all ingredients that will increase my visibility and improve traffic to my LinkedIn page? Is a question that we have to ask. Will my LinkedIn profile enhance my prospects of being found in the search results? And do I have a strategy to network? Am I aware of the size and quality of my network? Have I organized my connections properly? So it's very important. If you don't organize your connections, you don't know. You have to be conscious. See, there is a beautiful statement saying network is your net worth. If you, for example, in your household, you will know who is your vegetable market buyer, who is your doctor, who is your plumber, who's your electrician, who's the go-to guy for everything, right? In your network, if you know that you're going to be a job search, you're going to be in career, then you should know I've got 3,000 connections, 250 are HR people, 250 are bank officials, 250 are my friends. You need to know exactly what is your network. Your net worth is your network. You need to be able to organize your connections properly. If you don't organize your connections properly, you're going nowhere. So let's understand that very clearly. What is the level and nature of my engagement with my connections? Is there any predictable regularity and regimen that I adopt for using regimen for my using LinkedIn? So see, to give you a simple example, I have written a book. Okay, I wrote the book in January. Okay, now we are in May. It is about 4.5 months since I wrote the book. After writing the book, then it's important for me to promote it. You know, my job is not done by writing the book. It has to also reach to all the people that is targeted to do. So the thing is this. So I'm actually trying to address this question. Is there any predictable regularity and regimen that I adopt using LinkedIn? Okay. So what do I do? Every day, there is a nugget that I do. Monday to Friday, you will see that I actually post a nugget in the morning. There's an insight from Failsafe Hiring, which actually gives an insight on the book. Then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do a praise for the book. And then on Fridays, I do a contest for the book. Okay. So on 5 different days, there is a predictable regularity and regimen. So what happens is that today I can tell you that I only use LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook to promote the book. I have not gone through any other channels, and I have been able to sell about 700 books. I'm only one person in a sense that for my book. Okay. It's a very modest achievement, but it has all been possible because there's a predictable regularity and regimen of actually marketing the book. So I'm just giving you an example. The thing is that there is a beautiful, just to help you understand, vidamuyarchi visurupa vetri. You have to do it continuously and consistently. Your brand is being established not by, the consistency is very important. Sustenance is very important. I have to be able to do things which I can do, right? I may have great ideas, but how is it, for example, I have phenomenal ideas, but with my bandwidth, this is all I can do. But I have to do predictably. I have to be able to sustain it, and I have to be able to do regularly, right? That is what leaves the impression of the brand. So you have to understand what is the bandwidth that you have, how you can do, but you should do something. Every day you have to be at it. You understand? So do I know how to track, analyze, refine, and improve my LinkedIn experience? That's very important. You have to see what is a particular post or an engagement that gives a certain amount of impression. What is more popular? What is not popular? Right? What does somebody like? What does somebody not like? If you simply take example of a cinema, right? Why do they go to templated formats? There are even sequences which are actually taken from, there is a Tangachi sentiment, there is an Amma sentiment, there is a, you take any film, for example, there's a particular love story which is there. All this is a you have to understand what the audience, Ningal Ketavai, right? What is that you want? So somebody wants soccer, for example, give them soccer, right? You have to understand your audience. If you don't understand your audience, you're not going to be able to engage successfully, right? So that's something very important. And can I showcase myself as a model user of LinkedIn as a weapon for strategic professional presence? You can. And can I showcase? You have to ask yourself, can I showcase? This is very, very important. You got to be honest with yourself. And obviously, LinkedIn is giving you all the, what is it called? It's giving you all the ammunition to fire, right? So why don't you use that ammunition, right? Which is very important, because one of the most important, let me tell you one thing. LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to reinvent yourself. Okay, either you can be transactional. I keep on seeing many of the recruiters in the industry. They are very bothered. They're bothered that people don't turn up for the interviews. They are bothered about their offer to joining ratios. They are always on a firefighting mode. That means they're always in a transactional mode. But LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to be strategic. If you're strategic in your outlook, then what happens is that your life is far more simpler. You will actually eliminate the noise from your system. You will collaborate with the right kind of people. In a sense that I did a program last week for Vaishnav College on the impact of LinkedIn on recruitment matrices, and maybe many of you are pursuing human resources here. So the thing is that many of you possibly will land up as recruiters. Maybe some of you will as marketeers. But what is important to remember is the funnel, and right from the number of people that you identify to contact, to get shortlisted and to schedule interviews, to selections, offers, and joining. All this, if you're using LinkedIn, can be used for multiple things. And when you have an effective LinkedIn presence, it's a LinkedIn and social allows you for a two-way communication. When you have a two-way communication with people with whom you interact, there's an opportunity to build relationships. And relationships are the core for anything, for any business. You just want to get things done. You know somebody very well. You can just call him up, let us say somewhere in Hyderabad or Bombay or whatever it is. Tell him, boss, this is what I require. It will get done in a minute, actually. It's a relationship. So there's a lovely opportunity for all of you to build relationships But that means that you need to be able to reinvent yourself, which means that you have to be able to engage your audience. If you want to engage your audience, then you need to be actually become, you need to feel strongly about things. You need to become extroverted. You need to be interact. You need to communicate. These are all very important things for you to be able to reinvent yourself and make yourself very effective at workplaces and have an enriching career. So how can I detect room for getting more of from my investment in LinkedIn is something that you have to see. So let me come quickly to employer branding. So employer branding, now we'll park LinkedIn. We're going to discuss employer branding through LinkedIn. Okay. So it's very important you understand that employer branding, this is a dream company that you're talking about, right? I don't know what your checklist for a dream company, maybe it's a 5-day work week, maybe it is a holiday, paid holiday to a particular country, or, work from home, or all, these are all things, the illusions and mirages that lie in everybody's mind about a particular company, right? So mostly distractors, but whatever it is, employer branding is a lot of things. We'll see what is employer branding and also see what is an employer value proposition. So employer branding is the process of managing and influencing your reputation as an employer among job seekers, employees, and key stakeholders. It's not just the job seeker, it's also the employees. It matters a lot, right? So this is the employee value proposition. It is, just a minute, please. Right? It is the strategic statement that defines how a company wants to be perceived by its employees. It embodies the company's values and ideals and is a fundamental step in defining an employer brand strategy for talent acquisition. So this is very important, okay? So there's a Venn diagram here for you. It's an intersection for what your talent wants and what your company wants, right? These are examples of employee value proposition, right? So one, I probably can read out, some of the shorter things. Do cool things that matter is what Google say. But how they will actually, we'll see, how cool it is to say such a cool thing. So there's a HubSpot as an inbound marketing company, and then there's Pricewaterhouse. We'll see what Nike is much more easier and L'Oreal is much more easy to correlate. So Nike says we lead, we invent, we deliver. We use the power of sport to move the world. Such a wonderful employee value proposition. And then L'Oreal says lead the future of beauty when you love your work and the people you work with, amazing things that can happen. So that's again another interesting thing. Goldman Sachs, they say that we make an impact. We know in 2008 what kind of an impact they made. So, and Honeywell talks about a smarter, safer, and a more sustainable world. And then Yelp talks about darts, right? We work hard, throw darts. I don't know what a Nerf dart is. I tried to look up, but darts are, and you have the darts. Basically, it's like a game, right? You basically have a lot of fun throwing the dart on which is on the wall, right? Some kind of a shot. So it's just a reflection that the company wants to have a lot of fun at work. So very important things. Right? You may have a job description, right? You're looking out for let us say, an entry-level human resource business partner, or let us say a marketing. Or somebody wants to say he wants to be, wants to go as a technology engineer or whatever, development engineer or whatever, technology manager or whatever it is. That's a JD, right? On one hand, you have a JD. That's one of the reasons why you're going to that company. But it's very important that what are the values and culture. So, for example, this is very important for you to understand. A specific example that I want you to give. So, people in the final year of DJ Academy will be probably getting jobs, right? In a particular company. You believe that that company is a great company, but smart youngsters these days, I believe, you would also call up your senior in that particular company and then check out if what you're really hearing is really true. Because there can be a fine difference between how there's a perception and fact, right? So what is perceived? That company is great, but then what is the fact? The company in real time may have a lot of problems, right? So values and culture, employer brand represents the values and culture of the organization. It's really great that, if you're going to work for 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day, you're not really respected. You might get a lot of money. Compensation is great, but compensation is not the only thing that represents a brand. It's very important that people are a little bit magnanimous. They're really bothered about their employees. So it's very important that, you have to be concerned about the values and culture. There are two views of the employer brand. One is the value proposition as experienced by the employees, internal, and the value proposition as perceived by the industry, right? So it's very important that you always kind of authenticate your perception about the particular company in case you want to take up an assignment with the particular company, right? So, and this can, if you are there on social, if you're going to even attend an interview in a company, you should be connecting with any friends or employees in that particular company to actually validate about the company. You're in a digitally connected world, and it is very important to be able to leverage the digital connections, right? So these are some of the things that you will do. So for example, if I'm actually doing a very high level placement, even before putting up an applicant for an interview, I will actually check with some of my mutual contacts whether the person is good or not before really putting up for an interview, right? So proactive, remember the word proactive, Barumun Kapom, right? So it's very important that proactive is very, very important word for you to really understand. And then, so these are some of the candidate employer branding metrics. What is the candidate quality? Brand awareness, number of open, some of the things, okay, just for you to become, I'm not going to really really delve into this. I'm actually going to focus my energies on saying how you can do employer branding through LinkedIn. So this employer branding through LinkedIn, the principles of branding that are applicable to an individual are the same principles that are applicable to the organization as well. So the fundamental principles that you have to understand. So employer branding through LinkedIn is about engaging the audience. So you have to recognize your target audience. It's very important. What do they want? Why are they following? So the employee, what you have to understand is that in LinkedIn, okay, a lot of people do not pay much attention. So here is some of very important thing that you want to keep in mind. And here is one of the important reasons why an employer wants to acquire more followers. For example, an individual, I have about 20,000 connections. My company page Failsafe Hiring has 224 connections, right? Or 224 followers. Okay. Now you have to understand that if I put an engagement in my company, in my individual page, and if that content appeals to my 20,000 people, you have to understand that the communication travels in n into n minus 1 divided by 2. Okay, there are 10 people in a room. The number of ways in which the communication will travel is 10 into 9 divided by 2, which is 45. Okay, so if there are 20,000 connections in my room, remember that if the content is appealing to all the 20,000 people, if I have, so let me actually spill the beans. I've had several innings in my life, so my 20,000 is possibly may not be the desired audience for my existing fail-safe book hiring. Okay, I had done applicant tracking systems till 2010, 11, 12. My audience at that time was different. I evangelized LinkedIn from 2000 to 14. My audience at that time was different. And then I had different, I was doing consulting 2015 to 20 or whatever. I still do consulting. So my audience was different. So what happens is that if I put an engagement, all the people may not really actually pay attention to this, that if I actually put up a content, and if everybody consumes that content, then that particular engagement has the propensity to travel into n minus 1 divided by 2, which means that it's an astronomical amount. 20,000 into 20,000 minus 1 divided by 2. It's possibly some 20 million or 200 million ways in which the communication travels. Remember, this is the basis on which you had the Tunisia flower seller. In 2010, there was a big unrest in Tunisia where the whole country went down in flames because the communication goes viral and it gets transmitted in n number of ways. So just without forgetting, if I have about 225 followers on LinkedIn and Failsafe Hiring, which is my company page, then the ability of that communication to travel is only 225 into 225 minus 1 divided. That's not the size of the network again. Size of the network is very different. But just, forget the connections and the size of the network. All you have to remember is that if you have the ideal number of followers, if you have a great content, it can actually travel in n number of ways, and that's how a viral transmission takes place. This is something that you have to recognize your target audience. You have to be able to engage them with the right kind of content, right? There are two important things for this, important takeaways in this particular thing. One is that your ability to engage the audience with the right kind of content. Second is the number of followers that you have to acquire on your company page or an individual page, right? These are two important things which you have to remember. Third thing is that how will you add value to them, right? It's very important that somebody, it's very important that you add value to them. Otherwise, why would you want to collaborate, right? If I'm not able to add value to you, why would you collaborate with me? So I have to be able to add value to my network, right? And then you have to understand the difference between owned content. You'll be able to see, mostly you will be able to add value to anybody on a social media network through content, right? It is a content strategy which determines the value add that you're doing. So when you come to the content can be of two kinds. One is your owned party content, and then the third party content. Owned party content is your own content that you write, right? Your college lecturers can write, or you guys can write. That's all own party content. Third party content is that you find a great feed coming in from Harvard Business Review or something like that. You feel that it will be of immense use to your people. Or you find a YouTube video which has a great technology insight on artificial intelligence. It's about 5 minutes. You want to share it with people. So your content strategy can be a mixture of owned content and third party content. And you will do well to mix it up. And it's very important that the content strategy is holistic. Let us say, for example, I'm an organization. My organization has got different functions. I've got a product, I've got services, I've got a marketing function, I've got a sales function, I've got a customer service function, I've got a human relationship function. So my strategy should be a mixture of all this, right? I cannot be, now you see most of the people, how they use LinkedIn is mostly for sales and marketing. The other functions get muted. Many of the people do not even put the job postings in their company page. So it's very important that you have to have a holistic view, right? And you have to be able to create shareable content. So creating shareable content is basically creating an engaging content. And then what is important is that you have to combine value proposition with promoting, right? So at least if there are 5 posts, 4 has to be value proposition, the other has to be promoting. Promoting oneself is not the ideal way. You have to be very, very subtle about, you have to be very sophisticated about selling yourself, right? You just can't be very blatant about it and try to overtly promote yourself. You got to be able to add value. When you're adding value, automatically you promote yourself. So it's very important that normally they say it's 80-20. 80% is value proposition, 20% is promoting, but you can calibrate and arrive at whatever you want. Consistency is the key. You should be regular, you should be frequent, and then again, calibrate, measure the effectiveness of each post, and then that will amplify the message of the brand. What is important is that it's not only important that you're there on LinkedIn, but you're there on other platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on and so forth. Amplify the message of the brand. So with that, I bring it to a closure. And this is my book, Fail-Safe Hiring. And this book is for the recruiter, by a recruiter who cares. And this essentially the second part of the book, Tenets of Talent Acquisition. There are 6 chapters which are actually devoted to LinkedIn and social, and they would be explicitly useful for you in either recruitment or your job search activities. And the whole book as such will be useful for anybody who wants to understand hiring per se, and people who want to understand hiring from any other discipline, finance, marketing, also can read that. And recruiters can actually make complete use of the entire book to become fail-safe recruiters. Thank you, Dr. Narayan. I am happy to take questions.
Thank you, sir. So interesting listening to you for the last 1 hour, more than an hour. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting.
Voice, can you come here?
Apadiya?
Okay, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, better, sir.
Yeah. It's so interesting listening to you for the last 1 hour.
Okay.
A lot of insights with reference to LinkedIn.
Right.
Okay, sir, I do have a question. See, generally we get an inference like the Facebook is losing its charm and LinkedIn is on the surge. Is it correct?
The thing is I don't think it's it's not an app. See, let me actually, it's a good question. I'll answer you this way, okay? Nothing loses its charm, or nothing is on the surge, in the sense that, see, what you have to understand, sir, a lot of people, how you use the particular medium effectively, right?
Yeah.
First of all, it is not an apple-to-apple comparison. Facebook,
exactly.
So LinkedIn is architected beautifully for a professional. Okay.
Exactly.
But Facebook has its own merits. But what is important for you to understand is this: what is the kind of network that you have, right? What is your content strategy? So, for example, I use Facebook. I find Facebook very useful. I find that there is a much more closer community that I have. I have only 2,000 connections on Facebook, less than 2,000 connections. I have 20,000 connections on LinkedIn. But I have at least 200 relationships on Facebook, right?
Okay.
I also have, in the sense that it depends on what is there are 2 different purposes. It depends if you have a good network, and if you have, see, the thing is this, it's not only important, one of the things that you should understand is that it is not only important that we have number of connections on a particular platform. It is also important the number of relationships with a particular. So beyond the social platform, physically also you need to be able to interact with the people, right? And you can have a different content strategy for 2 different things, right? In LinkedIn, for example, I use it for professional needs. On Facebook, I'm actually write on movies and all that, right? So in a sense that there are 2 different needs why I'm there, and there's nothing like Facebook is fairly large, sir. And in the sense that it's a fairly more stable product, and they have different ways in which they're monetizing. I don't know, they've bought WhatsApp, they've kind of included that into their into the scheme of things.
Exactly.
They have many ways in which they are constantly progressing, right? So Instagram is one thing which is on the rise, but whether it is Instagram, whether it is Twitter, whether it is Facebook or LinkedIn, it is the kind of identity that you have, the clarity of the identity, the clarity of the network, how do you engage? This is what will determine your fate.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it really doesn't matter Facebook on the rise or Facebook on the wane or LinkedIn on the rise. These are all very temporary things.
Okay.
I think the animal is pretty large. Social as as a medium is extremely powerful. It's here to stay, right?
Yeah.
So we can use the best. Very surprising why Google went out of the race, Google Plus. But I think these four essential social media platforms are there to stay for some time.
Okay.
Unless a new concept comes, we don't know what it is.
That's right. Thank you.
Right.
Yes, participants, you have access. You can ask a question. Students, please come forward.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, Sanjay.
Sanjay, go ahead.
Sir, Sir, am I audible?
Yes. Yes, audible.
Sir, good evening.
Good
Sir,
evening.
how would you try to engage more employees, sir, in employer branding?
Okay, that's a good question. See, there's a concept of groups are there, right? So you can see, it depends on what is the kind of so you can all get all your employees into a particular group and you can engage them, right? You won't, there has to be privacy about the whole thing, right? If it is going to be employees and you don't want to have your internal matters literally known to people outside. So there are something called an open group, there's something called a closed group in LinkedIn. So even the information on closed groups will not be discovered in the internet at all. So you can engage the employees with various kinds of content, any of the communication and so on and so forth. I think there are some platforms also available specifically to engage the groups per se. So it is possible to engage them. The content strategy is what you have to come up with, right? How they have to be, the principles are very same, except that you don't want to do in a company page. You get what I say? In a company page, it will be visible to everybody. You don't want to know how the employees are engaged, right? And if they have any, what is it called? They don't want to accept things, or they want to go vocal about it, or they are kind of being opposed to any particular idea or whatever it is. So therefore, you want to have a private group, a close group, where you can actually get all the employees together and you can engage them. Does it answer your question? You have any other?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all.
Who's this gentleman? He's not on the visible.
No, he has got audio access, sir.
Oh, okay. Not a problem, sir. Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Got a chat here. Just a second. Hold on.
Yes, Kalu.
Okay. Natesan Kumaraswamy. Okay.
Sir, my question is, how can recruiter use the employer brand to attract people, sir?
What is your question?
How can recruiter use the employer brand to attract people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. See, for example, see, I had told you the internal people. There are two ways in which actually the employer brand is actually used in two ways. There's one is an internal. Internally, the employers actually know what the employer value proposition is. Externally, there is a perceived value. So the question that you are asking actually talks about, as a recruiter, how do you actually attract people? It means externally to the external world. We're talking about the external employee value proposition that you're trying to give, right? So what we are doing, what we would do is, for example, what attracts you? Let us say, what would attract a particular employee to a company? There are many things that will attract a particular company, that will attract a particular employee to a particular company. Great work-life balance, great quality of work. Let us say, a great office address. There is great short-term oversight, on-site opportunities are there. So there are things like this. So what you do is that, going back to the presentation, what we see is that there is a content strategy which is there. You use the content strategy to showcase the experiences or the actual opportunities that lie within the organization through an owned content or through a third-party content. It's actually an owned content you have to use. It can't be a third-party content, but third-party content can also be used. For example, there are people who say great things about the company, right? Customers of that particular company say great things about the company. Then there are, let us say, for example, it is a great place to work, right? You have been certified as a great place to work. Then automatically you can put that in your company page. An employee, that is, let us say, for example, there's an X company X, the recruiter is working. That company can broadcast that we are a great place to work. Or you can put it and behind your, in your own, what is it called, as a part of the gallery in your LinkedIn page. So there are n number of ways like this that you can do to promote your company and to showcase the existing, what is it called, attractive offerings that you have. Does it answer your question? Hello? Does it answer your question?
Sir, I think he's dropped
Yes, sir,
out.
yes, sir.
Okay, you are there, Kalimathu? Yes, fine.
Yes, sir.
Does it answer your question, please?
Yes, sir. He said yes.
Okay. So I have another question from Mohan. Sir, what is your idea about fake profiles, basically pretending from real background, or this is more like a scam? So it is very important. It's a good question, Mohan, but it is actually not very difficult to find if it is a fake profile, right? So it's very important how to read a resume as an art, right? So if you start, for example, a resume, and there are many ways as a recruiter. When you grow, you start reading a resume right from his date of birth. When you read his resume, and let us say, Western countries, they don't have the date of birth, but in India, I can give you this example. If he has not finished his 12th standard on time, right, that means there is a discrepancy there. That is the first checkpoint. Whenever you read a resume, first of all, find out whether there's a date of birth is there or not. If the date of birth is there, then check out whether the 10th standard and 12th standard has been finished on time. Then you find out whether his academics have been finished. Are there gaps? Then you go ahead and find out those from dates and to dates are written properly, right? When you go that meticulously in one combing and when you talk to the person, you automatically find out that the person is actually fake or not. Then what you do is that basically you find out whether the resume and the profile on any of the social media platforms is one and the same. So there are people who have a resume and the profile on social media platforms are different. Then there is a representation which is different on LinkedIn, and there's a representation which is there on Facebook. So I can give you examples. There is a person who basically said he's done only 1 year in the US. Okay, so I had a doubt. So what I did was actually I went into the Facebook and I knew that he had got his visa 2 years back or 3 years back, and he had gone to US. Because he had actually put a post saying that he successfully got through the visa, got through that particular this one. So, and there are footprints all along. And when you talk to the person, you can find out whether the person is, you will learn this. You have to learn this as a matter of fact. But impersonation is something beyond our control, okay? Some of the things that people do is that, earlier, today it is a pandemic era. Even if we do telephonic interviews, the final one round of interview will definitely be in person, right? At least the offer has to become, the person has to come in person and take the offer. So that in the recent times, we had a case where there was impersonation. Impersonation is happening in some way, okay? There is a person who actually cleared the test, and then on the day of joining, we found out that he's not the person who gave the interview, right? So that is the constraints imposed by the pandemic, but which may not be the case otherwise. But it's very easy to detect a profile is genuine or not. Okay, have I answered the question? Mohan, if you say, I can go to Sachi Jagirdar's next question.
Yeah, I think that question was in chat, sir.
It's in the chat actually. So Mohan has to type whether he is okay or not. Then I can go to the next question. I saw in the chat.
Yes, said yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sachi Jagirdar says, what are the do's and don'ts to run a company page, and is there a good time to post? I clearly thought I had told while, 1 second, please. Just saying. Okay. Chat. Okay, fine. Let me close the chat for a moment and focus on this question. You don't want to do, see, the thing is that running a company page has to be, first of all, it has to be holistic. Okay. You can't be skewed, okay, just to sales and promoting the company. You have to balance it between all the functions of the company. That means engineering has to get its due, delivery has to get its due, marketing has to get its due, customer service. You have to be seen as a your social media implementation is holistic. This is a clear do and don't. And one of the other things is that you can't be overtly promotional. You've got to balance it, right? You got to be, value proposition has to come out very strong, right? These are some of the things that you're doing. What is the value that you're adding is very important, not what you're promoting, right? So, promoting on awards and saying that you're doing a corporate social responsibility, all these things are probably, needed, but 80% of the times you've got to be focused on this one. So Sachi, does it answer your question, Sachi? Shall I go to the next?
Yeah, you can go to the next, sir, please.
Okay, 1 second, sir, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm just answering one by one.
Yeah.
Seshadri says, there was also one more question, I think I missed it. Good evening, how do you increase the company page? What are the base tips? What are the 3 greatest factors in hindering employee motivation? This is not the scope of this particular presentation, but I think it's very important that an organization is transparent and walks its talk. That's very important. If it's not walking its talk, see, the thing is that today, if a person is competent as what he is, organizations cannot afford to basically demotivate the employee. So I will restrict my answer to this because we're talking about employer branding through LinkedIn, and I'm going to address that. But just for your this one, you have to understand that an organization has to be transparent and be able to walk the talk. So I have other messages. Measures for retention. Okay. How is employer branding? How employer branding is made only when there are few vacancies. It's very important that there is a top of recall on your, see, let us say, if I have a few vacancy, okay, I'm a small company, I have to fill up 5 positions. If there is a top of mind recall of my organization, now, if I have a good social presence, I don't even need to pay a subscription for a Naukri or Indeed or Monster, because I have sufficient number of network and I engage them. When I make a job posting, automatically the people will be responding to my job posting, saying that, look, you're looking out for a job, because news travels in n number of ways. So it pays to be, there is nothing. See, in a flat world, you want to succeed, it is very important to have a social presence, right? So it doesn't matter how many positions you're filling up. Still, if you believe in social will never let you down, okay? In several forums, I've actually said LinkedIn is God. Or social is God, because if you use it correctly, it's almost like praying or whatever it is. If you use the grammar of the platform correctly, then you will obviously get found for your needs. So I'm going to, I'm actually answered that question and I'm going forward. And can you suggest measures for retention, like turnover, intentions, and dimensions for employer branding? Dimensions for employer branding. I've already told you that it has to be holistic. It has to include all the aspects of your organization's this one. So that way, I think that is already. Can you suggest measures for retention, like turnover intentions? I'm not able to understand that question, but dimensions for social employer branding is that all the aspects of your organization has to be reflected in the value proposition, right? Which instrument of internal employer branding are most effective, and which departments of companies should be involved in the internal EB process? Internal EB process is actually how there's nothing like an internal employer branding. Is an internal employee value proposition. Like internal employee value proposition is the way how the organization conducts its duties on a day-to-day basis. That means, are they walking the talk? That means if they are saying that this is a cool place to work, that means, are they tasking the work properly? That means the organization properly structured. Are they, is there a good environment for the organization to conduct its business? Is there transparency? Are the metrics in place? There should be no pressure in the way work is done, and people are absolutely empowered to do their work. So that is what the internal employee value proposition is about. It's about walking the talk. And there's nothing like, showcasing the moment you start doing like that, your branding automatically starts getting done, right? So I have 4 no messages. How to increase the viewers of the company page? What are the ways, tips? Other than good content, it's content and content all along. Because it's the building block of your social experience. Content is other than good content. Yes, you have to engage. What will you engage them with? Even let us say you're putting a selfie, that also comes under the ambit of the content. You understand? A third party, like your good morning message is also a content. You have to understand that. Good morning message is also a content, right? Organizations like support employer branding, especially in academic context. Academic context means, I'm not able to understand the question. Kamal Chandra, can you explain that to me? Okay, there's one more question that I've missed. How does few vacancies, measures of retention, which instruments?
There is a question from Sindhura.
Okay.
Sir, how far employer branding creates an impact on work of individuals?
Can you, what is it, sir? Tell me.
How far employer branding creates an impact on work of individuals? Probably she is referring the efficiency of individuals, I believe.
Sir, basically, yes. So, okay, let us say, for example, I'll tweak that question and just check up with her if it is okay. How does employer branding affect the recruiter's fortunes? That means the recruiter is working. Will employer branding help the recruiter? Answer is yes, because it's much more easier. See, let's say, for example, when somebody decides to take up a particular organization, it is the employer branding which is very important. Okay, let's say, for example, I've got an offer at organization A. I've got an offer at organization B. Both the organization have given me a similar compensation structure. Okay, but then I will decide between A and B based on the employer brand, right? So that's very important. That how will it affect an individual or a recruiter? Let us take, for example, a recruiter has to fill up a position. Let us say, when he has to fill up a position, he contacts people, he identifies people, then he finds out if they're interested, then he schedules interview. The whole process is extremely lengthy. If there are good employer branding initiatives from the organization, then automatically more people will be reaching out to you, right? Why would I see, for example, there's a recruiter in Google, and I'm working in Google. Google has done his employer branding so skillfully that I will actually only consider Google, right? I will not look at other people a little later, right? So the organization doing their employer branding is very, very important. So that will actually ease the pains of not only a recruiter, it will also ease the pains of a marketing guy, of a sales guy, and generally, let us take, for example, it will also help you in your marriage market, right? There are a lot of people who will say they know a particular company because they're branded well, right?
Yeah. You
may get a bigger dowry if employer branding is all right. Okay. So employer branding is non-negotiable. Okay. You will all have to work towards it. There are other questions, and Dr. Savitri, can you help me out? I'm not able to crane my neck. So if you can help me out, I don't want to miss out on any of the questions. Then people shouldn't feel offended. Please.
So there's a question in the Q&A. Mr. Raj is asking if you can give some tips on the art of reading a resume.
Yeah, you should buy the book. There's a separate chapter on how to read a resume. I priced it very, very reasonably. 395 rupees, and Sindhura has won the book. So all of you can see it and then decide. The specific chapter on how to read a resume. See, reading a resume is an art, and it's very important. It's like you go to a doctor, right? The doctor checks your pulse, right? Then this is my favorite example. I keep giving this. Then he basically checks your BP or whatever it is. Then he, he does that in a very structured way. So similarly, a resume may be 4 pages or 3 pages. A resume has to be short. Okay. The moment a resume comes, which is very long, automatically, you know this. It's that guy's resume is really not up to the mark, because brevity is very important in the way it's again, we are living in an era of attention span deficit, and people don't have the time to look at it. So a resume has to be well written and it has to be brief. Most important things is that I would go ahead and check for dates, right? First of all, I would look for date of birth. I would look at the from to dates. I would look at what is the role and contribution this particular. See, it's very important. Normally, what people do is that look at the first page of the resume, and then they think that they know, they feel that they have kind of judged the person, but it is not true. You have to read the resume from the top to the bottom and look at, if there is consistency in the way a resume is written. Then you go about it, then you start finding out that you write down all the points which you think is absolutely, does not add up, right? I would normally go ahead, even a person has worked in 4 years and he says he's got so many years of experience, I would add up the experience and see. It's a very rigorous process, but if you practice it, it probably takes 2 minutes to basically go through the whole resume. But I would actually write down all the points that I find which is not correct. I would essentially look for gaps. I would look for gaps in academics. I would look gaps in this one, and write down the points so that it's very important for me to validate all my findings during the discussion with him. Because when I discuss with him, I will validate whether that particular aspect, which I think is not right, I'll actually check with him and find out whether what he's saying is the truth or not. So I hope I've answered this question, right? I've not jumped the gun or anything like that. Dr. Savitri?
Yes, sir. So
Good
we'll
evening,
just take
sir.
one last, yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I'm Hemchan from first year MBA.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Please.
What are the key branding metrics when it comes to internal employer brands, sir?
There's nothing like this one. I've already showed you the 10 different metrics actually. There's nothing like internal employer brand or external employer brand. There's only an internal employee value proposition as a employee value proposition as felt by the people inside, and there is an industry this one. So there's a 10. When you go through the presentation, you have the 10 different metrics. I can send you more information on it. Okay. Later expansion on the 10 different things. I can send you notes on it. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. I'm not able to, there's a fairly, it'll take another 20 minutes or 30 minutes to go through the whole thing, all the 10 different matrices. So I'll send you the information which is available on the 10 different metrics, right?
Okay,
so
sir.
employee
Thanks.
value proposition is different from an employer brand. You understand? There are
Yes,
only
sir.
10 different metrics for the employer brand. It's not like internal brand. Okay. I hope you got that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall I, may I call upon Samya to propose
There's
the
somebody
vote
who
of
says
thanks?
employer branding, Kumar Chandra Sivalingam. How employer branding can be personal or professional branding. And it's made of few vacancies and measures of retention. 1 second, hold on. What are the, I'll answer these 2 questions and I think we'll bring it to a closure.
Yeah, please, sir. Go ahead.
What are all the activities or the posts that won't engage my connections or things that makes them to get bored as they scroll in? You'll be able to see the number of views, the number of likes and all that. Actually, see, the thing is all of us learn. Okay, there's nothing like a perfect post or a perfect engagement or anything like that. we experiment, we find the pulse, and then we go ahead and do it, right? So there is nothing wrong in making a wrong post. See, the thing is you don't have to be self-conscious or anything like that. There are millions of feeds in a day, and the moment you put across one feed, if it is not going to engage people, it is going to, completely get lost. Nobody is going to even notice it, except that it's going to be on your timeline. You will know exactly what feed is actually being liked by people, what is not being liked by people. But sometimes you just, in the sense that, remember one thing, that some of the posts people may not like, but it will still catch the attention of a lot of people. But therefore, what you have to understand is somewhere in between, you have to clearly be conscious of what you're putting. You should not be bothered about what people actually do. But if you really want more eyeballs to it, then you have to make sure that you can titrate that particular post. You understand? But marketing is all about knowing who is your audience. That you have to understand. Once you understand that and understand what they want, then you can make blockbusters. You understand? They're like movies. You're running like a channel. You understand? A news channel or whatever it is. Do you get the sand? The sand is Sandhya, you get it? Sandhya? Is it okay? 3 new messages, 4 new messages. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Thank you, Sandhya. There's one more message, one more thing. Somebody talked about employer
So the
brand.
question is by Indu Vardarajan. She's asking, is employer branding a marketing topic or a HR topic?
There's also a field called recruitment marketing. I don't know whether how many people have learned about that. Employer branding is definitely it's needed. It's a very important area for talent acquisition. Okay, it is a marketing activity. It comes under the ambit of recruitment marketing, but you have to be able to market your organization. So employer branding is an intersection of both marketing as well as HR, as well as, see, again, another major area of discussion is recruitment comes under HR or not. We won't get into that, okay? But it's very important for talent acquisition. I've used the words very carefully, saying that employee value proposition is required for employer branding, especially to attract talent. So it is for talent acquisition. So it is not for marketing, but it is marketing the organization. You understand? The objective is to attract talent acquisition. The process is marketing the organization. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Answer the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody said professional branding. Oh, how employer branding can be associated with personal or professional branding. So there are different kinds. See, the thing is that branding, individual branding or consumer branding or employer branding or whatever branding is there, only 3 components that go into your brand. One is your identity, one is your network, one is your engagement. On a social media platform, the principles are same. That is something that you will have to understand. The individual or the organization or this one, why you want to be on LinkedIn, why you want to be on social, what is the identity for which you want to be found, what is the network that you want, how will you engage them? That's all answers. That kind of summarizes. Kumar Chandar, are you happy? Kumar Chandar? Okay. I've answered it, but
Samya?
Okay. I hope I've answered everybody's question, right?
Yeah, yes.
Any questions, they can feel free. Please follow me on Failsafe Hiring, my company page on Failsafe Hiring. My mail ID is there with Dr. Narayanan. You can pick it up from him. If you want me to communicate to me, a phone number is also there. Don't send me connections on connections to my personal account. Please follow my personal profile and follow my company page. You will get all that. And you want to contact me, you have the, what is it called? Anyway, the contact number and the contact mail ID. Okay, I am approachable. I am reachable. Only thing is that I just want to completely get my LinkedIn connections right. Okay, so just for that sake, I'm requesting you to follow me and not connect with me.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, all. It was a wonderful session, actually, and I thoroughly enjoyed the questionnaire session also. The one thing I liked the most is like you checked with the individuals on whether they got it right, and it was awesome. And I would also like to share with the phrase that I like today: more you enhance your social media presence, more possibilities for you to get found for your needs. It was awesome, sir. On behalf of NIPM Coimbatore, I would like to thank you, Mr. Raghunath Ramaswamy, for sharing your thoughts, ideas, data, stories, experiences, and examples. The narration was excellent, and step-by-step methods were explained clearly to the students here. I'm sure students are benefited a lot. Even for the professionals, you gave us clarity on how well we can connect with 740 million members. The way you explained about how the network works and EVP is excellent and useful. Understood the power of LinkedIn, and effectively LinkedIn can be leveraged. Thanks a lot, Mr. Raghu, once again for the wonderful session. Thanks to the organizers. Well done. Thanks to DJ Academy professors, students, and professionals for your presence today. I believe we all have had a good takeaway and hope more LinkedIn signups happens today. And this session focused on both the employer branding and employee branding as well through LinkedIn. And thank you all. Meet you all in another wonderful session. Happy weekend. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thank you. All of you stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sparing your